Thanks to everyone for joining. I think there's been a lot of discussion around this topic that we're going to be addressing, not just within THALES, but also I think with the wider ecosystem around how to distribute tokens, who they should go to, why, what the connectivity between SNX and the other ecosystem tokens will be, what the optimal strategy is. And I think, the challenge with THALES is that they were kind of the first ones to go through this process. And so it wasn't really, clear, I think at the time, what the best way of structuring this was. And I think to their credit, back in the day, Daniel and Farmwell were really trying to kind of maintain as much alignment as possible between Synthetics and THALES. Which I think was obviously a very kind of ideal goal, right? The reality is that Synthetics haven't been around for 4 years, and the yield farming kind of inflation staking component starting in 2019. It's now been a long time, and there are many people who were in the Synthetics ecosystem who have subsequently left the ecosystem. And so I just think that we've gotten to a point now where the structure that we thought was the ideal structure for THALES back when THALES was launching was to go back and reward not just the people who are staking today, but the people who had been staking in the past. In hindsight, I think that was a little bit naive because we basically have this situation where the people who left the Synthetics ecosystem in the nicest possible way, in my personal opinion, are kind of pieces of shit, right? They dumped on everyone's heads and took the gains and just exited and said whatever, we don't care about this project anymore. And a lot of them kind of sat there and waited, staking and farming against their vested SNX, but any free SNX that they had, they would just dump immediately. Right. And so the idea that someone who is, optimizing for that strategy was magically going to hold THALES and have alignment, I think was just, again, a bit naive. And so the situation that we got to is I was talking to Daniel about maybe 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about this problem. We were talking about some particular addresses that are just ruthlessly farming and dumping and just being very mercenary about it. And as disappointing as it is, and I know who some of those people are personally, and I just find the entire thing a bit distasteful. It is what it is, right? You can't stop people from optimizing for whatever strategy they think makes sense. And so basically the conclusion that I came to was we actually need to reassess the distribution of THALES tokens. It just wasn't optimal. We've got a lot more data now. We've seen what the kind of strategies and responses to from various people in terms of how they've approached the distribution. And I think we just need to pause it here, accept that the data has kind of said that the distribution was not ideal, and give ourselves an opportunity to kind of reassess and work out what a better distribution might be. I'm not suggesting that we burn the tokens or anything like that. I'm literally just suggesting that we stop the distribution as it is now. And I think there's an opportunity, I would say, coming from the fact that we've got this THALES token migration, where previously the kind of distribution contract was immutable, so it would have made it hard. It would have required a token migration of some kind. But we actually have a good window of opportunity now to kind of enact this change. And so, yeah, I think, my kind of takeaway from all of this is everyone was kind of acting in good faith, trying to optimize for the best distribution possible. And we just didn't quite nail it. And it makes sense to reassess things and start from scratch.
Awesome. Yeah, amazing. What was the date, or were you interrupted?
That's pretty much it. I mean, look, I think there's some specific things that people might be curious about in terms of exactly how this is implemented. They're covered in the SIP. I I mean, they're kind of technical considerations around like exactly how this process plays out. But I think the bigger question that we need to get to kind of initially and make sure that we've reached some kind of consensus on is like, do we think that this is fair and reasonable to, change the distribution based on the kind of empirical data that we have? Obviously, my take is yes, that it's totally reasonable for us to do this. But I think that kind of maybe ideological high-level question is better to address first. And then if there's concerns about the specific implementation of how this is going to happen, then we can talk about that.
Maybe I can jump in as someone, Daniel, if you're fine with that. As someone who initially opposed.
Wanted to hand over. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. I step forward. I admit that initially I was against the idea of essentially rugging the retroactive, ongoing retroactive distribution for two reasons. Obviously, it would also rug me as someone who's been staking synthetics for the longest time. It's like synthetics raised me into DeFi, and also because of ideological reasons, meaning that things should be kind of immutable in DeFi, with position I'm moving not fully, but in parts away of it. We had the same discussion over at Synthetics a few days ago, and also because I know I'm agreeing with Kane that people who kind of cashed in the early rewards of Synthetics, dumped on everyone and left pieces of shit. I agree with that. At least most of them probably. I don't know the individual stories of everyone.
Appreciate.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, the one thing, personal story, I know I know somebody who got more or less wrecked. So I think everyone got wrecked by the ETH wrapper. We introduced the uncapped ETH wrapper, and I know someone personally who got totally wrecked, exited the system, and was kind of cut out of all distributions from all the synthetic spin-offs, and he just exited the system because he got he has a debt position open. He can't close it, but he can't claim, he can't stake, and this way he didn't receive any no Lyra, no THALES, nothing, because you had to stake. Sorry, THALES he received. Long story short, after thinking about it and after figuring out that Kane, you were behind this tip and being the biggest single one, how did you write it? The single most biggest owner or receiver of.
Yeah, I'm the biggest holder. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'm the biggest outside of maybe the Treasury Council. I'm not even sure because I think I actually maybe got more than the Treasury Council because I was claiming at the time or something. So yeah, like this rugs me the hardest. There's no question. But I think like this is where some collective kind of alignment in terms of the goals that we want as the current community, right? Not the community from 3 years ago, right? Or the ecosystem that exists today. I think getting the right alignment today is more valuable than trying to reward people from 3 years ago for doing something. Like I think they've probably been rewarded enough on some level.
Exactly. I think the damage, I made one example really badly. I'm sorry, not a native speaker. I hope Sam is not in this call somewhere. The damage we might do with this tip is way smaller than the damage that already has been done and will be done in the future if we're not doing something about those retroactive distributions. And after pondering, thinking about it for a few days, I came to the conclusion this is the right way. And exactly, I think everybody who feels like betrayed or rugged, just consider that the person who will be rugged the most by this tip is the one proposing it and arguing for it. And I think this is a very strong argument that's very hard to argument argument against. That's my contribution for now.
I think just one thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, please, you go.
Mine was more as far. I just kind of questioned the time frame for implementation. It might be actually addressed better towards Daniel or somebody else regarding like the 9 steps. How long you kind of see that taking to execute if this were to get approved?
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I did work with Daniel to kind of work out what the kind of implementation process would be, but he's probably better to address. I'm not an engineer, so.
Do you mind repeating the question? I was actually reading the question.
What's the kind of implementation timeline? Assuming that this vote passes, how long will it take before this would take effect?
Well, let me be like fully honest. To be honest, this was a bit rushed by both Kane and the council. So even though I'm fully supportive and like I think Kane made like an undisputable case, it's not something we started. It requires not maybe the scope of the previous migration, but it does require a bunch of scripts to be written to be dry run. And just preparing that and making sure nothing's gonna go bad just takes time. So and having said that, we are in the middle of like 3 or 4 releases. So to cut the long story short, I can't give an estimate of less than like 3 weeks or so. So yeah, I guess if that was the question, I hope it's answered.
I think it was the question. I guess maybe the crux of the matter, at least for me, is like how long does it take before we stop this max pain situation, right? Like, okay, but 3 weeks to kind of fully implement it, is that like, do we have 3 more weeks of distribution and claiming before we can actually shut it down, or is there a way to actually stop that first?
I mean, this is a DAO, right? So if the council says like pause it immediately, or whatever the DAO says, and execute the migration in 3 weeks when you're ready with the code, I guess that's something we could do. Although I advise against it just due to the optics. So I do feel it's better to eat another whatever wave of mini dumps, because those whales that you were referring to, they have dumped everything they had claimable until like a few weeks ago. So a few more weeks won't make such a huge change. And also they know we're watching now.
Well, that's my concern, right? Is that like now this has been telegraphed, right? Like, and I mean that's just part of DAOs, right? That's just how you have to do stuff out in the open, and I think that's good because you need to justify, the community needs to justify the actions that it wants to take collectively. But if you have bad actors within the ecosystem, like I would imagine there might be some people who look at this and say, "Oh, you're going to rug me. Well, I'm just going to dump this now," right? So I do wonder. Like, I would probably push for, if this passes, pausing immediately, right, rather than allowing it to keep going. Because 3 weeks is the estimate, but like, what happens if then there's like some issue that needs to be addressed and ends up blowing out to 5 weeks? Like, my personal preference would be if the council approves this to immediately pause distributions and stop it from there.
The question is, can we pause it immediately, because the retroactive distribution contract is immutable? Yeah. So how would we pause it?
No, we can't pause it. What we can pause is the migration to the new token.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still some liquidity for the old token that I just feel we give people a bit of time till the exit. We already like halved it in Dodo pool. And part of this migration, the ugliest part is that you actually have to also, just make good on those people who are still in the pool and who aren't paying attention. Yeah. Like 100K worth of liquidity there or so. Just to get back to that point, they are keeping what was unlocked so far. Like right? Like, I mean, that's part of the tip. Like, everything vested will still be claimable.
Yeah. So sorry that I interrupt. So when you say we're stopping the migration, you're also implying that we're making like a snapshot, from this block on.
Yeah, exactly.
technically still vesting, but when we are reactivating migration, the migration with the new contracts and stuff like that, we are ignoring everything after the quote-unquote pause, and just saying, okay, from this moment on, from the second the vote passed, so to say.
Yeah,
Never.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I was
that would be my
yeah.
preference.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that like it's been unlocking for 6 months, and if we like even do it in 2 days, like if no one sleeps from the core contributors and we all just sit down and just work on this, even if we do it in 2 days, it's not gonna be that much different than what they have claimable in like 2 weeks. I mean, it would to an extent, but I still think it's just something we have to do very careful, because fact is we can't pause that retro contract. It's just immutable, and the only way to work around it is to fully deprecate, make the old token a ghost token. But I also don't want us to create FUD around it. I want this to be kind of well communicated and understood, that no one will be getting like hurt by this. It's just people who can claim what's unlocked so far, and the rest of it will not be unlocking.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, fair.
For people who might have not read the tip, or it's too complicated. It's you don't have to panic, vest now your TALES and migrate it quickly. It This will be done for you. The second we're deciding that it stops, like I said, a snapshot will be made and stuff will be auto migrated, or the new contract will be made and you can migrate anything from up till this point. So no, there's no game theory behind it. You don't have to strategize.
Yeah, and initially my kind of first worry was what to do with the remaining Dodo LPs, because how do you how do you compensate the LP token holders, but if we can take a snapshot and just calculate the balance of ETH versus THALES, and we are also lucky that there is not that much. It's like 170k TVL in that pool, and that can also be done. So yeah, I can't see any major damage to this. Maybe with some PR, but if it's well communicated and everything, I believe it can be done pretty seamlessly. We already did this main migration to Optimism, and as Kane said, this can be used as a good opportunity, to also push this through. Because if we didn't do this initial migration to the new contract and to Optimism, it would be much trickier for us to deal with this retro distribution problem. But right now it's a good opportunity to seize, and I believe the TIP has this draft pretty well written, I guess. And yeah, and I am also not a tech guy, so it's up to maybe Daniel to kind of deal with the intricacies regarding code and whatnot. But from my point of view, it can be done pretty much without any major risk, I guess.
The only risk is PR, and especially I don't anticipate much PR from retro stakers, because whoever is aligned with THALES, whoever is here and paying attention, he benefits more from just stopping the sell pressure of the said wells. But yeah, I'm more worried about the existing liquidity. But we've been calling people to exit the Dodo pool for a month. I think they are also not paying attention, and we'll just make good by them by refunding them from treasury of any loss that occurs after the migration.
Maybe the question is, it's rather a loose question. Let's call it like that. Kane dropped. Damn. How hard will this hit the treasury? Just is it bad? Is this a lot, or are you saying the treasury will eat this without any?
No, actually, I mean, treasury doesn't have to eat anything. something that is not like fully discussed or fully in the tip is that we could try out the Dodo pool and use that ETH to pay the people, before the snapshot. Yeah, so that's like one way in which Treasury doesn't pay anything. The other way is to not do that and just still have those whales dumping on the Dodo pool until it's fully dried, because it's just the old token. We can't stop the retro unlock, so they can just keep selling as long as there is liquidity. So I believe drying it out from Treasury, like selling the old dailies we have in the Treasury, taking that ETH, and then reimbursing all the LPs, for what they had before, that's in that snapshot, and maybe adding like 10%, just because
I told you. Okay, so you know exactly why I'm laughing right now when you're saying the 10%. Just so I
Not sure.
understand, I told you that they are gambling on exactly that, because this is exactly what I would do. No, don't go further in this call where we can talk about. What I wanted to ask you is, so the alternative of not us drying out the Dodo pool but letting the whales jump on it is the downside to that would be that we would basically let the people in the Dodo pool get wrecked by the whales, correctly? And when we are doing it, we're actually reimbursing
we would,
them.
yeah.
Okay, so the
I
first
mean,
option is
either we
better.
don't do anything and just say the old token is invalid, it can't be migrated, and then they just lose everything they put in, or we do reimburse them from Treasury and just have that cost on the Treasury, which is right now about 170k worth of ETH, or we dry out the pool ourselves, reimburse them, add 10%, and I again don't see, like, it's not ideal, it's not immutable, and it's not in the spirit of everything we're doing. But that said, I think we are quite small. I think Kane made a perfect case why this is needed at this point specifically. I think there's pros and cons, and to me, like, pros hugely outweigh the cons in this case.
Yeah, so I think the thing that I would say, like, as the overarching argument here, right, is that in spite of the fact that the project has been, delivering really well, going really well, one thing, unfortunately, with crypto that is still very, very true is that price action is kind of the primary determinant of whether or not people think the project is doing a good job, right? And so when you have this, like, exogenous issue that has nothing really to do with the project, it has to do with the way the distribution happened early on, and synthetics whales and people who left the ecosystem, and all of this stuff that has, again, like, really very little to do with the actual work that's going on in the project and the progress that's been made. It creates this sense in people that the project is failing, or things are going poorly. And I think once you reverse that, once you fix this underlying issue, and can get back to a point where people can feel confident in participating and holding the token, I think that changes the momentum, and the price action ideally kind of flips around, and then that will drive much more positive sentiment than this change could possibly impact. So I just think, like, all things considered, making this change, even if it's not perfect, there's never going to be a perfect way to execute something like this. I think if it's well communicated, and we optimize for the thing that we're trying to optimize for, which is removing this kind of liquidity overhang, then I think we'll be in a good place.
Yeah, I fully agree. And Daniel, don't understand me wrong. I agree that we should dry out the Dodo pool, but maybe I misunderstood you. The 10% on top of that is like compensation for us actually doing
I know
that.
it's definitely making me feel very unwell just thinking about doing that move, and I do feel like the optics need to be, like, handled as good as we can, but I still feel it's the better than just letting the whales or whomever dump the old token after it's been, like, fully migrated, because they basically they can still claim it from that retro contract, even because, yeah, as I said, immutable. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're doing circles here. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be crazy. We can't do that because in that this would be bad PR if we're letting people in the Dodo pool get wrecked by exactly the people who are the reason we are doing this tip in the first place. And yeah, I will not complain about the 10%, but as far as I understand what you're just saying right now, it's at this point, and I'm just saying it now in the call, is it's more intelligent to stay in the Dodo pool and get a 10% bonus than to exit now.
I don't know. I'm not sure because, and the reason I'm saying 10%, even though it's not in the tip and it's to be discussed, is because you are finalizing their impermanent loss. You are making it permanent, basically. So it's not, as I said, ideal. That said, it's very like low liquidity, probably forgotten by those who have aped in and just not touching it. I doubt it's anyone who really pays attention. They would have let by now, at least my 2 cents. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, anything else from the council members or Kane?
Yeah. We can even like give them G-Uni LP tokens, right? Might be too
Yeah, on
exotic,
L, but that would be on L2. I don't know if they believe in. Yeah, let's simple as possible, I guess.
I just want to raise a discussion about the timing of everything, and that kind of also needs to be if we are to drain the Dodo pool and the optics and everything else and the snapshots, it need to be like timed really well,
Well,
for it to
my
work.
idea was to prepare the scripts, say when the scripts are ready, and of course communicate all of that. But not sure what your aim would be.
Honestly, I don't know. I think maybe to get the snapshot as soon as possible for at the same time for all the holders and all of the LPs and all of the like.
Yeah, actually, that could probably work, right? Like taking the snapshot now, trying the pool, and then doing the migration. And we'll probably expedite the process and could do it by next week if that's the idea. Didn't know you were also keen.
Yeah, I believe the snapshot is the thing that it's needed like the soonest, as soon as possible. But also it also needs to be timed with like termination of the migration tool. So those intricacies kind of still need to be thought out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got a pretty good idea what needs to be done. I think, as I said, it can be expedited or whatever is the past tense of that. So yeah, maybe if we put our focus on it, it could be done next week. The only one of the reasons I was trying to play it, slow was because the old token address might still be showing in some popular tools. Like I know we in CoinGecko only the new token is showing. I'm not sure about the other apps. So if that is still taking the Dodo feed, showing like 0 suddenly might be creating some FUD. So yeah, I was just thinking about such things.
Okay, I just opened CoinMarketCap, and the only pool it does is Dodo pool, and it's old token, and yeah, like CoinMarketCap is only the old token and the Dodo pool. So yeah,
I mean, there's ways to push that through. Like we have contacts there that we can reach out to. I can tweet at them; they'll respond pretty quickly. So I think I wouldn't worry about that too much. Both CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap are fairly responsive to changes like this.
Yeah, it's on me, the THALES strategist. I completely forgot about the CoinMarketCap, but I did the CoinGecko push. So, but yeah, it should be pretty straightforward.
It's literally ripping the band-aid, right? So I guess everyone here is saying no point in dragging it on, right?
Yeah, Spreak is suggesting that we are draining the pool first and then doing the snapshot. But I think that this plays also into doing it the quickest way. Just so don't be because what Pat's just said. I already said some days ago that CoinMarketCap is pulling from Dodo exclusively, and there's also Coinbase was also feeding or is the backend for some token tags tools, let's call them like that, or portfolio tools, and they are showing different numbers as well, and I don't know where they are putting that one. So if anybody has an idea or knows somebody at Coinbase who knows how they are getting their THALES prices, it's like at 50 cents right now, flat. That would be important as well, because that would be another source that would potentially show an horribly incorrect number.
This feels like a somewhat tangential problem to me that needs to be addressed. It just like, I get there's been a token migration, there's a bit of confusion, but I think this is a problem that maybe needs to be addressed as a separate issue, just ensuring that all of the different price aggregators and what have you are pointing at the right token and the most liquid places.
Yeah, because in general, I'm like Kane. I like to YOLO stuff. And if my personal opinion is now that I'm for this tip, I wish we had done this yesterday. So I couldn't do it as soon as possible. Is my suggestion.
Same. Yeah, very very strong agree on that one. As soon as possible.
All right. Well, we'll start it ASAP. Should be ready relatively quickly. I still think we should just take a moment, like even the whole community, not just CCs, and just think about if we are missing something. Like one thing which is definitely going to be an issue is like TIP-bot. People have old THALES in the TIP-bot, but that also can be fixed if the TIP-bot guys could work with us. But just, throwing examples of things I want to make sure we do not miss, but still I'm sure we can get done next week.
So if I can provide some historical context here, as someone who's done many of these YOLO situations, I think the Thales treasury is going to be sufficiently better off by the price not getting continually crushed, that like any retro distribution to people who accidentally get rugged is going to be trivial, is my take. So my view would be, do the thing, figure out the issues, and then, obviously there's a governance process. If there's something that's really big, it can be fixed with governance. Otherwise, the treasury should just be able to compensate people. We've done it many times with synthetics.
Fair enough. All right. Just gonna take a moment to address questions, just in the interest of time. I think, Kane, our meeting was due for 30 minutes, but yeah, let us know.
Yeah, whatever. That's fine. I was late. It's all good. I've got one thing, but it's not hugely urgent.
All right. Just not sure if I'm reading the question correctly, but just gonna say it again. Like, there's no action that anyone needs to take. No one will be damaged or hurt by anything by this tip execution. It's like, and I think at this point the community can trust us because we've executed a much more complex token migration. When we migrated all stakers to L2, it went like pretty smoothly. So just like that was smooth and didn't require any action. So yeah, this one also doesn't. And then Sprig had a question, how we reestablish trust on future allocations or unlocks after having executed this. And I think it's better like if Council or Kane addresses that one.
Come again, I sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, I wasn't exactly quoting, but the question is like, how do we reestablish trust in future allocations that might be unlocking or vesting, that we won't pull the same shit, more or less. That's sound.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable question, right? Like, how do we ensure? How does someone who's participating in some reward structure trust that the community is not going to rug them? I think the very simple answer to that is, if you're aligned with the community, then you're going to be fine, right? If you're not aligned and you're exploiting the situation for your own profit in a very mercenary fashion, then you might get rugged, which on some level, like, I just think communities need to stand up for themselves, right? I think it does not make sense for you to sit there and watch someone dump on your head that's contributing nothing. Meanwhile, a bunch of people are putting in a lot of effort to build something, incredible, and just getting dumped on. So I think the answer is, if you're aligned, I don't think there's any concern. And I don't even see this as like a tyranny of the majority situation, right? Like this is literally a community looking at a situation and saying this was a bad decision, and we're going to fix the decision to ensure that there's a more optimal incentive alignment. That's it. So I think in the future, like, yes, there is some component of lack of immutability. So if your goal is to kind of exploit or game some distribution process, and you're concerned that maybe your exploitation or gaming is not going to be as efficient as you were hoping, I kind of say, like, bad luck.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on that. I actually think that the initial optics on this might look not ideal, but I think short term or medium term, long term, this definitely lends it adds to the credibility of the project and the reputation. It shows that the DAO is reacting in the best interest of the stakers and is willing to pivot and build the project in the best way possible. So I think it adds to credibility and it doesn't actually reduce it.
Exactly. I think Kane and Ramblers address something that's very important, because this is part of my mental development in DeFi. I went into crypto and DeFi with the expectation things are immutable. This is like my security guarantee, that the blockchain is immutable. No government, nobody can, no big guy can just rug me and rug my funds. And when you're looking at how especially DeFi has developed, there are things like proxy contracts and stuff like that. You will realize that things aren't immutable for quite some time already. So immutability isn't really the true security guarantee you're getting in DeFi anymore for the longest time. It's not just that most people didn't realize it yet. And I think this is the part where DAOs, and especially, and this is why synthetics and the synthetics ecosystem is personally the best thing that could ever happen to DeFi. This is where councils in particular are coming in. And this is where token holders, stakers in particular, are voting in people they trust, that they are acting in their interest, in good faith, and there are security measures in place that will remove people who are not acting or are not aligned with the community. And long story short, I think you have the trust that we are not rugging you when you are aligned with the project, by having trust in the DAO structure and having trust in the councils and the members, the stakers, who are the ones who are still aligned because they're a stake, voting into these councils. And as Kane said and as Ramba said, not doing anything would be damaging to all the stakers. And us doing this is protecting the stakers and the people aligned with the project, and that should give confidence for the future.
Good. Another question was, how do we plan to use what's close to 9 million that will be returned to Treasury from executing this? Does anyone from the council want to take that one?
Can I just make a suggestion before you guys jump in? That I think, again, to kind of follow on from BP's point, there needs to be a level of trust. I assume you guys are going through an election right now as well. Am I right in saying that? You're
actually
no?
we went 6 months epoch to
6 months epoch, right? Okay, so you got another right. So okay, fair enough. All right, so you got another 3 months of this council. I think if you trust this council to act in the best interests of the project and the kind of community, then I think it's not needed. And I didn't want to be prescriptive in writing this SIP and saying like it has to go to, this thing or that thing or whatever. I think the best bet is put it in the treasury, make an assumption that the treasury will be, kind of optimally distributed to ensure the longevity of the project. There's probably a bunch of cool things that people, I think, would like to see done with these tokens. And, again, my very strong personal view is I'm foregoing God knows how many tokens. I didn't even add it up, but a lot of tokens, right? All of which can now be redistributed to ensure that the protocol is bootstrapped more effectively, which ultimately is I think going to be better for everyone. So my view is keep it as open ended as possible.
Yeah, my view on it is similar as well. I didn't want to actually cloud the decision making that went into this tip with what would we do after the fact. So I think there's a lot of potential that we could value add to the project with those tokens being returned to the treasury, but I wouldn't want the success or failure of this passing or failing being determined on what would happen after the fact. So I think it's quite important to me anyways to kind of separate that into two different tips or two different ideas and deal with it if it happens.
All right. If no one else wants to address that, I'll just ask the community once more because I might have missed the question. I don't have any that I know from the top of my head that I've seen. So if there is any question I've missed, just tag me quickly, please, or just restate it. Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up slowly. I'll use the chance to thank Kane. I think this was pretty amazing, taking the time to coordinate on the tip to present it, just making the amazing case and also forfeiting the largest retro bag. It's pretty nice move. I hope you get some good karma for it. So at least
I was kind of hoping you guys might just give all the tokens to me, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I think I feel a little bit rugged, but no. Look, for transparency's sake, I speak to Daniel. I think on like a bi-weekly basis, and have been for a very long time. I try to support all of the ecosystem projects. The same thing for the founders of Lyra and various other projects. I try to dedicate as much time as I can to kind of helping navigate some of these challenging situations. And we were just having a conversation about this, and my kind of frustration levels just reached a peak, and I was like, "This is ridiculous! Like, why are we kind of allowing this behavior to continue?" And then from there, I think it became pretty obvious what the solution was. So, I appreciate everyone working with me to kind of help get this through, and hopefully the council is supportive of the decision, and hopefully the community gets behind it. I think it'll be a really good kind of line to draw, and put all of this stuff behind us, and move forward, and reestablish some momentum for both the token and the project. So yeah, that's my goal, and I'm hoping that this will kind of help contribute to that.
Okay, maybe I've in representing the council, just want to say thank you, Kane, for taking the time out of your day and coming here. It's great to have the founder of Synthetics here with us in the voice chat, and showing your strong support for the project. I think there was some meme going on sometimes that THALES is like the forgotten child of Synthetics.
No,
and
it's not forgotten.
Yeah,
I still think about THALES all the time. It's definitely not forgotten.
So
I wasn't aware of that meme, for what it's worth. Anyway.
I mean, to be fair, there's a meme that I forgot about Synthetics, right? So it's not that surprising to me.
Exactly.
I guess we're wrapping it up, right? So just I guess a few shouts or reminders. We do have an election right now, so it wasn't completely untrue, but it's for the Oracle Council and for the upcoming exotic markets, which we are getting ready and should be like a few weeks, couple of weeks, until release. And I lost my train of thought on the other things I wanted to give a shout. Yeah, THALES Royale started with first ever, focusing on SNX price, and obviously SNX is pumping as a result of that. So keep it up.
Yeah, Royale is notorious for globally manipulating markets.
Exactly. SNX
Hope-
up only.
Yeah, hope
I
only
love
upwards.
it. I love it. That's hilarious.
All right, yeah, I think we can wrap it up, right, guys?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, it was pretty productive, and thank you all for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye.
See you guys.
Guys.